All right, welcome back to Beyond the Protocol, where I'm so excited to have my guest, Bryan Blair, with us today. Welcome, Bryan.
Hi, Melody. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm really excited to be here.
I am too. I was looking forward to today. I know we've had some really good conversations just about our topic for the day, so I'm excited to be able to share that with everyone else, and hopefully they'll get some good information and takeaways from our talk today. I know every time we talk, I walk away with really good information that I use going forward. So I think my guests will too. My those that are listening to my guest will too.
Thank you for the kind words. I appreciate that.
Yeah, so let's jump right in. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about your journey and how you got into biotech and pharma recruitment?
Okay, so I'll start by saying, well, I'm the vice president of life sciences at GQR. We are an agency recruitment firm, and within GQR, I'm interacting with candidates, clients, doing stuff with AI for our team and for clients, and so it's we got a lot of exciting stuff going on at GQR. I, like all other recruiters, if nobody else knew this, nobody really plans on going into the profession. I had mine in 2020 when I graduated college. The company that I was going to work for went under 5 days before I graduated.
Oh my
So
goodness.
I was like, I'm going to move to New York City. There's a lot of jobs there. One of my friends, he had moved back to Westchester, New York. It was in the middle of the pandemic. And I found a job in recruiting. And I will do this every day for the rest of my life. I could not be happier.
You know, it's funny you say that because I've worked with some amazing recruiters. I mean, recruiters,
Mhm.
when I was on the consulting side, independent consultant, I never had to like go out and actively look for new contracts or new
Mhm.
clients. I had the best recruiters who just connected with me and they knew I would deliver for them and keep good relationships with their clients. And they call me. And so I have great feelings about recruiters in our industry because I've worked with the best and have the opportunity to do so. And so I think it's really amazing how I've made this pivot and I don't necessarily need recruiters in the same way, but that you and I have met and I'm still getting the opportunity to work with amazing recruiters.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I think that it definitely it draws an interesting bunch. And we all, for the most part, truly care about the candidates and clients we work with. I mean, I've been to weddings, I've been to graduation parties, and I never would have expected that. Even I had a candidate stay at my house for a weekend while he was at the company where I got him a job. We
Oh,
played golf,
wow.
hung out with my friends. So I'm really grateful to have some of those experiences.
Yeah, I can totally see that for you for sure. All right, so let's talk about challenges in our landscape. And I know right now it is a really tough time in our industry. I feel so blessed that I have never experienced a layoff, which is interesting because a lot of people shy away from being a contractor or consultant, feeling like there's no security in that. Um, but I've been on teams where I've watched people who I consider very friends and they're laid off, but yet I'm still staying as a consultant. And I think right now, again, we're in this cycle of layoffs and changes in our team structures and how many resources we can have on a team that directly correlates to our budget tightening situation. And so I'd love to hear your perspective on where we are right now and what the challenges we're facing.
So to put it, there's no way to sugarcoat this. The job market right now, especially on the candidate side, is not good. We're very close to bottoming out based off of the data that I'm seeing on job posting. It's something I follow very closely and how many of those positions are getting filled. But we have had 10 quarters now
Mhm.
of a regression in overall postings in the industry, and they've been cut in almost half over that period of time, going from about 19,000 job postings 10 quarters ago to now about 10,000 open roles that are posted. So it's substantial decline. I think macroeconomic conditions are actually playing a larger role in this than anything related to like science or particular drugs,
Yes.
obviously those play a big factor, but I've come to learn that interest rates are so influential in our industry because we need venture capital to invest in biotechs, and it
Mhm.
makes the whole system go round.
Yes, it does. Yes. And I think for those of us that are in the day to day and we're in the trenches running trials operationally, and we feel like we have a job right now. It's not on
Mhm.
it's not front of mind. We're happy where we are. We're not dusting off our resume. We don't have any plans to leave. And then we find ourselves in this situation where we now have to look for other opportunities. And that's when we realize how bad things may be and how difficult it's going to become to find another position.
Yes, and I've had a lot of people who've been doing this a lot longer than I have, who were, in the industry for 2008 during the recession. It wasn't as bad as it is now. And so a
Mhm.
lot of people recently laid off, they are expecting to find another job like that and probably even find something that they'll love. They've never not had options. And then we're at month 6 and it's like, I
Nothing's
still
coming.
haven't found a job. Like, this is
Yes.
bad.
Hmm. Hmm. I agree. And I wish that there was something that I could say on this call that would, that we had a magic wand and could see in the future and say, if you can just hold on for this amount of time, it's going to open up. But we can't. And so then I
No.
start to think of what are other ways that we can help folks that are in these situations, maybe pivot in the interim and move to consulting. So many people are like, I don't even
Mhm.
know where to start with that. But in speaking to the clients and companies I'm connected with, they're far more open to bringing in a consultant and having fractional team members who are open to just being there for 3 months while we take care of the data for this BLA filing, right?
Mhm.
And then we can part ways and we're not committed to an employee and the full time commitment of that. And so I think if people could kind of grasp, even if it's just in the interim during this time, that they're open to that and can set themselves up to become fractional consultants, then that's a way. But of course, that's scary
Mhm.
if you've never done it. I'm used to it. It's my life. But if you haven't, you've been an employee, it's not so easy just to say, okay, I sign up. I'm going to be a
Mhm.
consultant for a few months and ride this thing through. And so I would hope that somehow people can tap into communities. There's some great ones out there that can help them navigate different territory until they can get back to what they know.
Absolutely. And I think the biggest piece of advice I'd have for anyone is just to keep your expectations low from the front end so that you don't miss out on some good potential leads in the beginning
Mhm.
because you were being selective the way that you would have been, and understand that you might have to work for a tier 2 company when you've only really done tier 1 companies throughout your career. And it's just because when you have hundreds of people applying for one role, somebody might be dropping down 2, 3 levels and taking a $50,000 pay cut. That's hard to
Yes,
compete against.
it is. It is. I agree. I agree. So let's talk a little bit about where we're headed. We know where we are
Mhm.
today. We know candidates are it's not great for candidates right now. But I also feel we're kind of like in the midst of an evolution here. And we have AI, we have some things on the horizon that I think could change the way that we manage employability and bringing teams in and how we project what we will need in the future so that we possibly don't find ourselves in this space again. So tell
Mhm.
me your thoughts about that because I know we've talked about it a little bit.
I think that every professional should be learning AI like it's their job. I personally am spending probably 6 to 8 hours every weekend trying to obtain new AI skills and then work on them throughout the week to implement them within my
Mhm.
job. And they're things that aren't just specific to recruiting. I mean, getting it, you can set up your email so that it's giving you a TLDR for every long email message that you receive and giving you a really good suggested response back based off of the context of that conversation, your
Mm.
relationship with that person, and then in your tone of voice. So I mean, there's when people think of AI, I think it depends on to what extent they've used it. Because if you're using, a free ChatGPT account, that's a different experience than having a fine-tuned
It
model that's
really
answering
is.
emails.
It really is.
But I think any professional can realize just how much efficiency is gained when you're having that. And I blindly trust this now. I'll let AI answer anything for me. The president of the United States could send me an email, and I'll let AI answer
AI
it
is going to respond.
because it literally will put together a better response than I could have naturally. I'm dyslexic, so it takes me a while to write emails sometimes. They can be kind of all over the place.
Mhm.
And for it to put what would have been my thoughts into a nice succinct email, it's like, oh, this is wonderful. This is like changed my life.
I know it is. There are some really great positives to it. I'm an advocate for it, but I always put the caveat: I'm an advocate for it with humans still running the show.
Mhm.
Especially in our industry, I think so many people um, have these great plans for it, but I think it can only be as great as the humans and the teams that will utilize it. It's a tool, and so I love the way that you're using it as a tool. Can you give me some insight? I know we've talked about the candidate side right now, but can you give
Mhm.
me some insight as to how biotechs and pharmaceutical companies can utilize AI from their perspective in terms of hiring and talent acquisition?
Yes. So there are at the enterprise level, there already is AI that's being used at these companies, whether they realize it or not. Like
Mhm.
if talent acquisition, they will have LinkedIn recruiter licenses, which there's AI built into that. Not quite as robust yet as like what somebody could do on their own with, if you call it, bring your own AI to work. Um, and then in their applicant tracking systems, there also is AI. When there's people, you apply for a job on LinkedIn, there is a portion that's sorting through resumes to an extent
Mm.
and then kind of producing, or mainly getting rid of the ones that are truly not a match. So, somebody you put that there's a geographic restriction. Okay, this person doesn't live in this country. They'll never be applicable for the job. Um, what makes it tough at the biotech and pharmaceutical level is it's a very heavily regulated industry. And to make most effective use of it, for example, so if I do a job posting, I'm not going to trust LinkedIn's AI system to use it as much. It doesn't find the candidates that I need it to find.
Mhm.
And so if I take those and put it into my own system, it can go through a stack of 100 resumes faster than I can and produce better quality and have it based off of that particular hiring manager's preferences and then their employees and where they've worked before, because there's going to be patterns. And
Right.
you'll find that, okay, so people who came from this company would have on average stayed at your organization for 7.5 years, whereas the average would be 2.1 years is what you'd expect within life sciences for a tenure at a company. That's really good. There is something there. There's something about the experience from that company that translates here, and I want that.
Okay. So AI can really identify trends and historical information that
Yes.
maybe a human that's going through the same stack of resumes just simply could not do.
Yes, and I guess with a biotech or pharmaceutical hiring manager, the more information they give me about what we're doing in the future,
Mm.
then I really, really can fine tune things to look for specific profiles. And at the beginning, it's a little bit of trial and error because you don't know how heavily do I weigh this new information compared to historical.
Right.
But overall, just from my own desk, my success rate in finding the candidates that hiring managers want to speak with is so much higher that I honestly say that it's frightening. It's better than me at my what was my job for the first 2.5 years.
Yeah. So it seems like with AI comes some really important strategizing at the front.
Hmm.
So when a hiring manager of a company, it's not a good idea just to focus on, I have a position or I need a human being for this activity right now, but to really understand the strategy for the company in terms of projects, what the needs will be in the future, and not just focus in on this one position that I have open and I need one human to fill it right now. Tell me from your perspective how important strategy is in all of this.
I think it's everything, and it's something that's underutilized at the moment by every stakeholder. So
Mm.
companies will have a strategy, broadly speaking, but the people that I'm talking to on those calls or getting jobs from, whether it's talent acquisition or hiring managers, they're not empowered to make decisions within that process. It's just you're allocated this budget for this position,
Yes.
and they're not able to play a longer term game, which I think it would empower them to be more invested in the process too, because it's like, if you're going to have to hire 6 people this year and these are going to be the budgets for the 6 roles, well, then we can step back and think about it and say, hey, maybe we don't need to allocate as much for this position because that's something that just has high turnover. We need to find someone quickly.
Right.
Um, and when you know these things in advance, so there are some like smaller companies where if I'm working with a senior vice president, they will be able to have much more oversight in that, and we can plan so much more effectively for the year. It's fantastic. And then I can have people ready for them because one in every
Yes.
3 employees who starts at your company this year will not finish the end of the year at your company. So most positions that are being filled are not because of growth. They're filling somebody else's job, and people aren't thinking about it in terms of that.
Yeah, that is something, well, on my side, I preach. I mean, that's our
Mhm.
mission here at the Research Associate Group, people, culture, and process. And I think when we miss the boat on those three pieces, that's when people are leaving. And the
Mhm.
investment we've made in the people to be in the positions we created, it's just a significant loss, a loss of knowledge, a loss in the training time it took to get them where we want them to be, and the team takes a hit when someone leaves, and then you impact the culture. And it's like, well, why did this person leave? They're not supported because neither am I. Well, am I ever going to get the support? So I think strategy has a trickle down effect, and it's not just strategy for hiring, it's also pulls over into the current team that you have. And so the decision making that happens when you're bringing new team members on impacts the people, process, and culture that I focus on. So I think what we both do marries, right?
Oh,
So well
yes.
together.
Yeah, no, we both have that unique view into what is, the important characteristics that make great teams. And
Yes.
like the culture part that you talk about, that is not cliche. It is certain people will thrive in certain environments. Like I historically have done really well with managers who are like super hard on you. I think the best, even though he was a coach, but my high school hockey coach was borderline degrading. And I don't think any person has ever gotten more out of me as a human than he was able
Mhm.
to. So, but that's most people, that won't be the case.
No.
And so, understanding those things about yourself and the type of manager that you're working with, even a difficult person, you can assemble them a wonderful team that works well.
Hmm. Absolutely. And I think we miss the fact that culture is a part of brand. It's the brand of your
Hmm.
company. And it should be very evident the type of culture you have, and it should be part of your brand, good, bad, or indifferent. And if we need to make an adjustment to bring your brand, your culture to another place and space, great. But it's still whatever it is today, that is the brand of your company, especially when it comes to talent acquisition and bringing people in and keeping them there.
Yes, no, I completely agree with you. The sad part is the companies who need the most culture work are the least likely to spend any time on it. They treat
That's why
interviews like
they're in the
they're,
situation they're in. Yeah.
yes, and it's really, but you start to see the snowball effect of bad culture. People just aren't motivated to try and, oh, we won't be able to change things. They throw their hands up.
and they blame the people instead of the culture that they put in place. And it's really a reflection on the leadership of the company, good or bad. And that's a message that I'm like trying to scream from the top of the buildings and the mountaintops to help people understand the investment in culture is so worth it. It's so worth it. And it has a downstream impact into your budgets and all the things that are money driven that everyone cares about. So I find it very interesting that we put culture to the side and don't make any investment in it because it really does matter. So let's talk about building these mission aligned clinical teams. How can we make sure that culture and leadership plays a big part in the hiring process? Like, what do you do from your side to really help these executives and hiring managers understand the important piece this plays when they're hiring?
Like if it, in a perfect world, I've never had anybody do this, but I would have every hiring manager take like the Myers-Briggs test.
Yes.
That would be my preferred way to do it because when I think of culture, it's going to be on a team level and a hiring manager level. Um, and then if we can just get good teams across the board, I think a good culture bubbles to the top there.
Hmm.
But I think it is so important to know who will work well with this person because sometimes you want some contrast too on a team,
Yeah, you need it.
but you can't have too many people that are overly outspoken. You can't have too many that are overly reserved. And what's interesting is I found even in my own hiring decisions, I actually don't trust myself to make that call. I need another party who knows me well to be involved in making that decision because
Mhm.
I have found, like most people, if it's left up to me, the people that I think are great culture fits are who's closest to Bryan Blair, and that is not going to create good culture at all. And then I'll end up resorting, if I'm trying really hard to think about it, I end up with a like subservient type personality that will yes man me. That is also not going to
Yeah,
lead to,
yeah,
and I
doesn't build
know this about
team.
myself, and I can't shake knowing that I will fall into that hole again. So it's
Or you just get another person to help make it a more
yes.
rounded decision. I think that's a great idea. I actually have an HR colleague slash friend who has actually implemented having everyone take the Myers-Briggs test. And so everyone internally that's already there has taken it, their scores
Hmm.
and all of that, like that output is part of their HR file. But then every candidate,
Hmm.
they do it too. So they there she's matching and understanding the team structure that she's building when she brings a new person in. And so I agree. In a perfect world, I think everyone should do some form of that.
Yes, it's the tough thing is too is like you don't want to be peppering people like so much. You got to remember like from the candidate's perspective too. Like if I'm having them take like these Myers-Briggs tests, like at least you'd want it to be a universal thing. I don't want to create another requirement. Companies have gone
No,
really far with making people do
too
jumping
much.
through these hoops.
It's too
And
much.
I even worry about the skill-based hiring that they talk about, that the effect of that ends up becoming where it serves as the SAT basically, where it's just keeping getting the smart kids who are already going to Harvard that much more well versed to go to Harvard. And it doesn't take into account like within this environment, how well is this person going to perform?
Hmm. Or engage or interact with others and the soft skills that are needed. I keep coming across amazing professionals that, from an experience and expertise skill set perspective, off the charts. But then their soft skills are so, for lack of a better word, ratchet. That they can't stay on the team. We can't keep them because that's it has to be balanced. We can't have too much of one and not enough of the other. So I agree, and I think it would be a great. This is a great plug to tell everyone that's listening. Like, know your scores, know where you fit on some of the standard personality assessments and those tests. So then you can just say, here it is. I don't need to take it. Here's my output. Here it is in PDF. Take it. Do what you need to do with it if you need it as part of my hiring process.
Yes. And I guess the other thing, you can change who you are too. You're not stuck in the archetype of person that you are. You can work on bringing, I always say, bring the best version of yourself to
Mhm.
work. And this is your mental health, your physical health, your social health. All those things are, we don't invest in those enough, but they make us so much better at what we do for our work.
I agree. I agree. And I think the
Mm.
people that have kind of understood that and taken that to heart and ran with it, they're the ones that get the opportunities. They get the new projects at work. They're the ones that are pulled on or requested repeatedly to be on the teams of leadership. And so I think that's a really good suggestion for people that haven't done that. Is it helps you really identify your strengths and weaknesses and to be a better candidate in the hiring process. And then after you get the job, to be a better team member where you end up.
Yes, I couldn't agree more.
All right. So, what do you think's next in biotech and pharma hiring? I know we talked about it a little bit. We feel like we're on the rise of an evolution here. So, what's
Mhm.
ahead for us?
This is a tough question to answer because there's part of me that wants to say the things that we all hate are going to get worse,
Mm,
with like more years of experience being required when it's not necessary. And I like to tell companies, hey, why overpay for something we don't need to overpay for? If we don't need a college degree, why are we making somebody have a college degree? The
right.
people without the college degrees, they usually are asking for less money and they
Mm,
don't leave as often because not every company's flexible with that. But
right.
they started in the industry at a time when you didn't need one. So now we're going to say that they're not qualified anymore. That's crazy.
Makes no
Um,
sense.
so it's, I hope that that stuff changes. I don't know. I think there will be less talent acquisition people and recruiters. However, I think the ones who exist will have pretty particular archetypes. They're either going to be very technically savvy or
Hmm.
extremely like the recruiter type personality you would think of. And the best will be able to do both extremely well. So, they're spending half their day and it almost looks like they're coding, and then they're on the phone for 6 hours with people. Um, that would be more of what I would expect, and a lot more promoting on, LinkedIn, staying active on those
Hmm.
platforms. I think people will start doing first round interviews with AI.
Yes.
Um, and I actually think that people won't mind doing that after the initial adoption of like, okay, that was weird. But I think it will be good enough where people will start to enjoy it because it'll become faster. They'll be able to, you apply for a job. Okay, we'll speak to you right now because we don't need an actual person to talk to you. Um, but that could come with some downsides. We'll have to see what regulation will play a huge role in what level
Yes, it will.
that's able to take place. And I think that where we are economically is going to play a huge role. I think people become much more okay with something like that when the economy's ripping and roaring, everybody's getting hired. You're interviewing with AI, but you're probably going to get the job. I think
Right.
people all of a sudden become very receptive, like,
They're
hey,
okay
this
with
is
that.
cool. And then the companies who don't do that are going to be really behind the eight ball. Um, but I think that for a lot of the work that I do, let's say, really hard to find talent, like headhunting positions, it's going to be very, very much the same type of
Mhm.
work, which is going to, and so I think that the pharmaceutical industry in particular and biotech has so many positions that are like that because there's so many things where there might only be 100 people in the country who do it. They're
That has
all
that
employed, they're
expertise.
well paid, and they
Yes.
are certainly not applying for jobs on LinkedIn or anything. I might have to help them put together their resume. Some of the best candidates, it's funny, their resumes are horrible when they come to
Because
me
they
the
don't
first
need them.
time. No, they don't need a good one.
They don't need them. Mm-mm. Yeah. No, I see that too, and I think it's closer than we know. Like the future is closer. It's not some far out situation where we're going to realize it happened right before our eyes and it's here and we didn't realize it happened that quickly. That's how I see it for us. All right, so I think we're like, this has been a really good conversation to kind of like help us see where we are today, how can we make some changes, and where are we going. So what are your final takeaways? Like if you could have a moment to share with the leadership and the hiring managers who are thinking, what are we going to do right now? Like we have work, we have these things continue to happen despite what's going on outside these doors, and we need humans, but we need to be very strategic about how we bring talent in to get the work done that we need to do. What is your advice to them?
My first piece of advice is get selfish about hiring. As an individual, understand that the people that you bring into your team are affecting your career on a personal level. You might not plan on being with this company for more than a year, but how much better is that last year going to be if you have a C player versus an A player? And by just taking a few small steps, like something as simple as, like, I get it, you don't want to be interviewing people all day, every day. It's annoying. But if when you have that candidate that is perfect, you know it's perfect, let's not treat this interview like we're talking to somebody to flip cheeseburgers who's a teenager. Let's sell this both ways, because if you can sell them on yourself, sell them on, like, I will take you under my wing and we are going to build something beautiful. I see it all the time. Those candidates accept right away. They might even take less money. Sometimes they'll drop down in title just to work for you, because you have that magnetic charisma that people are so drawn to. And it even leads to retention down the line. The hiring manager by far has the biggest influence over whether somebody stays at a company or not, and is classified as a quality hire. So it means they stayed for more than a year. The hiring manager, every study in the world will show, has the biggest influence. So be selfish about it. Get yourself the best people so you can have work-life balance back. You can make more money, get promotions. And that's been the ones I've had the most success with. I follow from company to company. We build them teams, and I can't believe, like, they're getting promoted every year. The salary's going up. I'll be like, I don't think you can switch jobs right now, because you have almost priced yourself out of this, like, market currently. We need inflation a little bit here to get your salary to where it's back within the bands. That's a great problem to have.
It is. It is. I agree. I agree. I think that I had never considered it that way, but to be selfish when you hire, that's light bulb moment. I'm glad you shared that.
Oh, thank you. I just, you got to figure, people are, obviously, we all look out for ourselves. So let's just be intentional about it.
Agree. I agree. And when we do that, somehow it works out to where other people benefit too.
Absolutely, because they'll see that you take things seriously, you believe in them, and that, I don't think there's a more rewarding feeling you could have than taking that person who is maybe not floundering in their career, but an average to an above average performer, and you spark that light in them. I mean, I think that's worth more than any amount of money you could make. That's something you'll forever remember.
I agree. I agree. And I just think it speaks to the kind of leader that you are or can become, because those are attributes of a really great leader.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Bryan. I'm so glad you joined me today and we were able to have this discussion. I hope that it's helpful. I know there are so many people that are in the job market, or they're fearful and unsure if they will find themselves in the job market. And then the flip side of the coin, right? The folks that are in the seats of having to decide how to proceed with hiring and being and what is to come for their organization in the future. So I think this was a great discussion. I'm so glad you joined me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. And it's been so nice. I always enjoy speaking with you, Melody.
Same here. Same here. All right. Take care.
Yep. Bye now.